Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Flex and Joe, and we're back to review another day in the market. And today we'll be discussing Election Day, Tuesday, November 5th. So going into the election day trading, I didn't really know what to expect because this is my first presidential election trading. I've only been trading for a few years, but I wasn't trading during the 2020 elections. So didn't know what to expect, but my main focus was to just continue to read the price action and trade according to the system that has been working well. So let's just get started with what the setup was going into the open. We look at NQ, you can see where we closed here at 4 o'clock and where the session closed. We were basically gapping up a little bit. And going right into the open, we were CBC long, following this VWAP interaction where we had a CBC flip into VWAP, and then we get this hammer right under VWAP and we push right back out of it with strength. Looking at the VIX, so here's the key thing on the VIX is that a couple days ago we had this gap down. And this gap down hasn't been filled. However, you can see that after a few attempts of trying to push up higher, ultimately it pushes back down out of the gap. And then what you see in the overnight action is that it was basing off of the bottom of the gap, off of this 22 level. And so repeated touches off 22, rejected, and tried to hold this higher low here. And then it puts in the lower low, lower high combo, and going into the open, it's CBC short, which is bullish for the market, okay? So the chart was already telling you that it was likely to move lower, the EMAs were bearish, and your CBC short, which is a long setup for the market, so great. Small gap down, long setup for the market, and Q we already saw was a small gap up, so things are looking fairly solid. If we move over to ES, let's quickly do the same thing, evaluating that. Here is your 4 p.m. close right here. Here's your session close. So either way, you can see it was a small gap up into the open. And following the VWAP interaction, which actually closed back above VWAP, CBC had flipped long. So we were all three in alignment for longs going into the open. And obviously now you can see on ES, huge pump up here on the open. Same thing here on NQ and a huge drop here on the VIX. Now, VIX dropped into a key gap level that I had been watching to fill. And this gap was from 2157 to 2022. And this was the gap that was created from the close on October 30th to the open on October 31st, okay? So this gap was looking to see this fill. It continues to knife. It went right through that golden zone with strength, and it went all the way to the gap fill. So it was just absolutely perfect play. You see it bounces here, moves up, and then just peaks above the golden zone again, and then it ends up falling back down. If we draw a fib though from the high of day to the low of day, you can see right here that it is a perfect golden zone rejection right in here. And so that makes sense as to how the VIX traded for the day. I say traded, but like with air quotes, right? Because you're not actually trading on the VIX. But for NQ, key thing here is big long push off the open. Amazing pullback through your 2-minute EMA. So this was a great long entry. And then you got some flips in through here. Now, just the important thing, and I'm going to delete some of these lines here to make it clear to just see the price action on VIX. The important thing to understand is that VIX never flipped back CBC long, not until after 12 noon Eastern. So these flips, especially where you have a flip and it's just barely a flip and then the next candle doesn't close below the flip, they really just are consolidating and it's just drifting into the EMAs. Now, you got to flip back bullish and then again, they can't get over the orb high, it flips back bearish. The key thing is look at ES here, and ES never flipped, and when it flipped bearish, it flipped right into the EMAs. The following candle went lower, and once it starts to peak back up and turn green, this is usually a very strong, and I say usually, a very strong buy signal, as this is the first time that you're interacting with the 10-minute EMAs, and you can see that it is getting bought up with strength, right? Because the bears are trying to move it lower, and once the bears lose that momentum and it starts to flip back green, you're looking at a failed move, which is likely to take you over the high of the day. So you see this here, this happens on NQ. If you were to get in over here in the 60s, right, risking, that's about 30 points. That's quite a big risk there for minis, but if you're trading a handful of micros, it should be fine depending on your own risk tolerance. You do your own thing. Don't do what Flex and Joe tells you to do, right? I'm just a dude on the internet who flexes his muscles from time to time. So you see that though, obviously look at the risk reward on that. If you're risking around 30 points here, you're looking at break high of day, from a 60s entries, that's 2-to-1, right? And if you just continue to trail your runner, on your runner contract, you could easily have gotten 100. So 100 points being over 3-to-1. So fantastic trade opportunity here. Once you finally got the CBC flip here, this was good. There were some good pullbacks along the way, and this was overall a good setup, especially considering VIX was still moving down. And at a certain point, you should expect that we are, I'm putting these back on, we're going for this gap fill. And that's why I like to mark these gaps out, is that when you see we have this flip here, right? Look where it is and look how close we are to filling the gap. Once we had gotten in through here, I was calling it out live on stream. We're going to fill the gap. We're going under 20.22, and that's exactly what we did. We peaked down under it. So amazing entry here. We didn't catch the long off the open. Good one here as well on both. No, that was a good pullback. I don't even need to pull up the lower time frames to know it, but let's do it for the sake of you guys in the video. Oops. Here it is. Look how amazing that is. It's fantastic, right? So you got this pullback here, and then this one here was also amazing. So 2 entries, 2 opportunities, right? Great stuff. Now we'll go back to that 10-minute chart. Hate how it like sends you back, you know, into a random day and time when you switch time frame. It should just stay right where you were, but it doesn't do that. The only flip you had on on NQ was right here, and you get all 3 of them flipping in conjunction. Now, as I've shown in previous videos, when you get all 3 of them that flip in conjunction, it is a time to exercise caution, but also to look at where you are relative to the entire chart. So in this instance, what you see here is that all 3 have flipped, you're extended, and ES did peak over and make a new high but couldn't sustain it, and NQ for an hour could not make a new high. So it pushed up, it was just barcoding up here, a lot of sideways consolidation, couldn't break over this high that was made at 12:10, and then by the end of the 13:10 candle, over an hour later, you get your CBC flip. So at that point, it's like, hey, I probably should get out of the runner, or look to not take any new longs yet until I start to see some strength. And you really got choppy into the end of the day as we were approaching the election, and you got a little bit of a push. So same thing here on ES, right? You had some strength where it broke back out, but really at this late in the day, you're not going to get the same momentum typically. So you should be using caution and looking at where the buyers and sellers are holding. You can see where buyers were holding here, and you can see where sellers were holding here for a while until they get broken over, comes back down, and finally push back out. NQ, a little bit different, swept under a key level here and swept under, and then it pushes back out. So that's it for... Sorry, I don't know why I zoomed out like that. That's it for this video. I hope you guys find it to be helpful. Please leave me a like, and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one. Best of luck in your trading.